It's only just sunk in that I'm recording, you know, even though I've been working with the camera for probably a half hour now because I filmed the short version before this. This literally never feels normal. Hi, I'm Abby. I have a lot of records, and this is Vinyl Monday. So welcome back, or welcome if this is your first time here. Vinyl Monday is the series where once a week I sit down and just talk about albums that I love. If 20-minute episodes aren't your thing, don't worry. I also do Vinyl Monday in 60 seconds, both here on my channel and over on my Instagram. So I usually make a game out of guessing what album I'm gonna cover next. I post my hints over on my community tab, as well as a funny little running count of how many episodes it takes for me to swear 5 times in one video, thus completing the opening chord progression of the Beach Boys' Our Prayer. If you're new here, I'm from New England, I have kind of a mouth. And I host polls. I found a gap in my schedule for this week, so I hosted my first ever crash poll, letting you decide in 2 or 3 days what album I was going to cover next. And you picked Let It Bleed by the Rolling Stones. Congrats to everyone who voted for me to cover the Stones again. My last Rolling Stones episode is, as of right now, my most viewed Vinyl Monday, so kinda nervous to have to live up to that one. For everyone who voted for Sheer Heart Attack, hang tight, it's coming. All right, now that the housekeeping's done, let's take the plastic off. So my copy is a newer repress from either the 2000s or the 2010s, and I picked this up at Disc and Dat in Bethel, Connecticut. I really miss that store. I picked up some great things there. I will forever be kicking myself for not grabbing more from their jazz section. There was this really groovy copy of Gabor Szabo's Greatest Hits. Like, the cover design was just so cool, and I left it behind and have quite literally been kicking myself over that ever since. I know you can find it for like $25 in Discogs, but it's just so much better when you find them in the wild. So let's talk about this cover art. Mick Jagger originally asked MC Escher to do the Let It Bleed art. He said no, so he got this sculpture by Robert Brown-John instead. We have a phonograph down here and a record changer stacked with an old school film reel, a clock face, a pizza, a bicycle tire, and this fantastic looking cake. I just want to grab a fistful of this and eat it. No utensils, no napkins, just my fist and the frosting. And right on top of the cake, we have 5 little cake toppers for each member of the Rolling Stones. They look like little wooden soldiers up here. So sweet. This cake was made by Delia Smith. Also, have you ever picked up a film reel like this before? I did in one of my film classes in college, and holy shit, those are heavy. On the back, we see that someone has taken a big bite out of this confection and smashed the record. This art was inspired by Let It Bleed's original working title, which was Automatic Changer. See? Automatic Changer. On Let It Bleed, of course, we have Mick Jagger on vocals, harmonica, and the acoustic guitar on You Can't Always Get What You Want. Keith Richards on guitar, vocals, and also playing the role of one of the loves of my life. We also have Bill Wyman on bass, Charlie Watts on drums, and Brian Jones playing auto harp and the congas. Let It Bleed has quite a long and illustrious rotating cast and characters when you're talking about special guests and session musicians, so I'm going to mention only 3 of these names. We have Ian Stewart playing the piano on the title track, Nicky Hopkins also playing piano, and Leon Russell doing the horn arrangements on Live With Me. And now I'm going to throw out 3 more names which prove to be paramount in Rolling Stones history. You have Bobby Keys on sax, Mary Clayton on guest vocals for Gimme Shelter, and Mick Taylor on slide guitar. This record was produced by Jimmy Miller, and roll transition. Ladies and gentlemen, let us wait for a very slow, very low-flying plane to pass. It's the one noise that I can't filter out in post, so I just kind of have to sit through it. I touched on this a little bit in the Sticky Fingers episode, but since it's most relevant to Let It Bleed, I can really go in depth on this year in Rolling Stones history. 1969 was a bad year to be a Rolling Stone. The late 60s overall were a very turbulent time for the Stones, with drug busts happening left and right. In late 67, you get Their Satanic Majesty's Request. It is delightfully eclectic and kind of a mess. They branched out and did some experimenting with their sound. It didn't quite go to plan, so for the follow-up, they largely returned to formula with Beggar's Banquet. Now, You Can't Always Get What You Want takes form before Beggar's Banquet, and it's debuted at what would have been the Rock and Roll Circus in 1968. But the ball on Let It Bleed production really starts rolling February of 1969. The brunt force of Let It Bleed was recorded at Olympic Studios in London. My God, that name has come up a lot on this series. And Elektra Studios in LA. This is where Mary Clayton famously cut her vocals for Gimme Shelter at 1 o'clock in the morning in only 2 takes, while 4 months pregnant, in her silk pajamas and full-length mink coat. That is what I like to call queen shit! Though it was a turbulent time in her personal life, this appearance on Gimme Shelter would revive Mary's singing career. She recorded her own version of the song in 1970, and she's appeared on many, many records, including Carole King's Tapestry. Now, Let It Bleed marks a turning point in the Stones' discography. The summer of 1969 is marked by the messy and complicated exit of founding member Brian Jones. The song You Got the Silver is Keith's solo vocal debut, but it's also Brian's last appearance on a Stones song. As a musician and as my twin, we're the same height and size and everything, I adore Brian Jones. Though he wasn't a prolific songwriter, he was a prolific multi-instrumentalist. Any instrument under the sun, he could pick it up, and within the hour, he would know how to play it, and he'd be playing it well. He was a founding member of this band. He was half the guitar duo that set the Stones apart in their formative years. He was shoving the group into the future with stuff like Their Satanic Majesty's Request. I do wish there was at least one more Stones album like this so Brian could really flex his talents. But as a man, he was deeply complicated. In a lot of ways, the Satanic Majesty's era was the beginning of the end for Brian. Keith had stolen his girl, he was losing control of his band, he'd picked up some bad habits, he'd forgotten how to treat people. Things are looking grim. He grew increasingly unreliable, was contributing less and less to recording sessions, and the guys had reached a crossroads with him. Brian was fired on grounds of his drug use. Yeah, I know that's hard to believe considering Keith Richards is in this band, but you have to understand that this was a couple years before Keith really started using heroin. He wasn't always the Keith that we know him as today, right? He was dabbling in the light stuff in 1969. We were only on one drug bust at this point. Needing another head of golden hair to fill the gaps Brian left, and stat, Mick Taylor was brought in as reinforcement. He does slide guitar overdubs on 2 of these tracks. This means that almost all the guitar work you hear on Let It Bleed, both lead and rhythm, is by Keith. It's never easy to talk about death on Vinyl Monday, especially of an icon like a former Rolling Stone. Within the month of his firing, Brian Jones dies at just 27 years old. Brian's public memorial at Hyde Park was beautiful, with the guys wearing all white, setting white butterflies free, and Mick reading a Percy Shelley poem for him. Brian diehards, at least a group of them that I've observed, they will deny this to the bitter end. The Stones really did love Brian. He was their friend. Losing any friend, however complex that relationship has gotten, it will still shake you. Especially when you're young, like these guys were. It's hard to believe they were ever young once upon a time, but it's the way things go. Brian is still so influential today in both fashion and in music. He's half the namesake of the Brian Jonestown Massacre, one of my favorite modern groups, and I find myself dressing like this man all the time, whether I mean to or not. It's usually not intentional, but it's kind of hard to avoid with this hair situation. And as it so often goes with a founding member of a band's absence, you know, not unlike Syd Barrett's absence from Pink Floyd, Brian's absence from the Rolling Stones dictates the rest of the band's history. Syd's absence from Floyd is a recurring theme in the songwriting of Pink Floyd. You know, you have Dark Side of the Moon, you have all of Wish You Were Here, bits and bobs from The Wall, but Brian's absence from the Stones marks a stylistic shift. Gone is psychedelia, blues is back in full force, and entering the fold is country. During all of this, Mick Jagger's longtime relationship with actress, singer, and muse Marianne Faithfull is crumbling. You Can't Always Get What You Want is in part inspired by this long and painful end. Like others flying in the Stones' circle, Marianne had developed a wicked drug habit. This was severely impacting her acting career, of course, but it was killing her singing career. Her voice changed very fast. It was once this lilting, clear as a bell, bird-like voice. She had this kind of dolly image at the time, but then it was this growl that we know her for today. Marianne, Mick, and Keith wrote a song during the Let It Bleed sessions called Sister Morphine, but through all of the turbulence in Mick and Marianne's relationship, this was shelved and would end up being used for the next album. Ladies and gentlemen, I totally lost the original inner sleeve for this in the time that I've been sitting here. Hold on. The track listing of Let It Bleed goes as follows. Opening up side 1, we have Gimme Shelter, followed by Love in Vain, a Robert Johnson cover. Then Country Honk, followed by Live With Me, and side 1 closes with the title track, Let It Bleed. Side 2 opens with Midnight Rambler, followed by You Got the Silver. Then Monkey Man, and the album closes with You Can't Always Get What You Want. Let It Bleed was released in November of 1969, and it was a smashing success on both sides of the pond. But with the release of this album, I do have to cover the bloodstain on its legacy, the Altamont Free Show. Like I said, 1969 was a bad year to be a Rolling Stone, and it was capped off with the Altamont disaster. The Stones were touring the US, which was something they rarely did at this stage in their career, and the US tour to promote Let It Bleed would be capped off with the Altamont Free Show. This was organized by a couple members of the Jefferson Airplane and the Grateful Dead. The show took place on December 6th, 1969, and this thing was doomed from the start. The venue was moved at the last minute, and it couldn't accommodate anywhere near that much traffic or that volume of people. The volume of people was way more than the organizers expected, seeing as Altamont was advertised as a free show. The crowd was getting antsy from hours-long delays, and the Hells Angels, providing security, were picking fights all night. It was a perfect storm that culminated in truly the worst way. This is one of the more upsetting events that I've had to cover on an episode. A Hells Angel killed a concert goer during the Rolling Stones' set. The guilt weighed heavy on all of the Stones. They didn't know all of the details of what had transpired, or even that anyone had died, until after the fact. Here, if I can get it out for you guys, this is my Rolling Stone magazine from January of 1969, showing you this headline right down here: Hells Angels for Christmas. This is a frightening prediction. It seems the writing was on the wall the whole time. It's hard to believe that the Hells Angels were ever considered crowd security for concerts. Hell, even Woodstock had them. The documentary that covered Altamont is, of course, named Gimme Shelter, after the opening track of Let It Bleed. Gimme Shelter, the song, is a picture of the state of the world during the height of the Vietnam War and how televised all of these horrific things were. And I also see the song as another omen for what was to come for the Stones. A lot of people cite Altamont as the death of the optimism of the 60s counterculture. I always cited it as the 68 DNC riots, but wherever you put it, Altamont marks a huge shift in where the counterculture is going, as well as live music culture. There really is no easy way to make this transition from all of the heavy shit associated with Let It Bleed, except for asking, so, what are my thoughts on this album? Going in, I underestimated this album for a long time. It's easy to do. This is the unloved middle child of two monolithic releases in the Stones catalog. It's the follow-up of Beggar's Banquet and the predecessor of Sticky Fingers. There is a whole army of guest musicians on Let It Bleed, and I love the communal vibe that it gives this record. There really is strength in numbers. The opening track, Gimme Shelter, is a whopper. It's a masterclass on creating tension within a song. Keith's opening guitar line is ominous and unstable as he doesn't use all 6 of his strings. There's this subtle build of the percussion throughout. The blown out harmonica sounds like another guitar line. It cuts the song in half like a razor. And of course you have the interplay between Mick and Mary's vocals. Mary is one of the MVPs of this record, even though she's only on it for a few minutes. Talk about a legendary performance. It makes Gimme Shelter one of the greatest singles of all time. The transitions between these songs are so good. Gimme Shelter is a fantastic song on its own, but that effortless slide into the Love in Vain cover just makes it even better. Country influences take a lot stronger of a hold on the follow-up. See Mick's fake Southern accent through Dead Flowers. But in my opinion, this influence is sublime on Let It Bleed. It comes through in the Stones' interpretation of Love in Vain and, of course, on Country Honk. You can tell the Stones were in shambles when recording Country Honk. But I like the vibe. It's sleazy, it's a little hungover, definitely on the come down. It fits with the tone of Let It Bleed. However, I will say This would be a perfect album if it had the single version of Honky Tonk Women. Country Honk just feels like a reprise to me. Oh my god, I need the Keith goggles for this. Hang on! Take my arm! Take my leg! Ah, baby, don't you take my head! Gotta love when your wardrobe helps the comedic genius. The title track is similarly sleazy, though a little more developed. It's so much fun. Same with Midnight Rambler. The build and the pacing of the song makes it so much fucking fun to listen to. It's another shining moment for Mick's harmonica. One of these days, I really need to buy a harmonica for the sake of some jokes on this channel. And now, my thoughts on You Got the Silver. You Got the Silver was the song that made me love the Stones, and in turn, it was the song that made me love Keith Richards. The backtracking guitar is some of the best production work here. Shout out to Jimmy for making that happen. And Keith's vocals are just sex. That's the only way I can describe it. That pathetic, pleading drawl, the voice crack. Oh god, I love that man. Hey, Anita Pallenberg? Yeah, how did it feel to live my dream? In short, I say with utmost confidence that Keith is the MVP of Let It Bleed, and You Got the Silver is his victory lap. Oh god, I blew my voice out with that. Damn it. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Monkey Man is underrated as hell. It's an unsung hero of this album. The piano part at the beginning feels very atmospheric, very spacey. It feels very Bowie, even if it's years before Bowie would be using those chords. I dig the key change too. It's delightfully unexpected. And finally, You Can't Always Get What You Want is a perfect closer. I can't imagine a more perfect closer for Let It Bleed. It feels like the ending of a movie every single time, and it kind of is. It marks the end of a big chapter in Stones' history, the end of Mick and Mary Ann, the end of Jones's Stones. The choral parts by the London Bach Choir make it obliquely cinematic and make it one of the great album closers in rock and roll history. But, if you want my personal favorite version, that's on the Rolling Stones Rock and Roll Circus. And to round out my thoughts on Let It Bleed, I pose you all with a question. Does anybody else think that You Can't Always Get What You Want was written around Love in Vain? Because I do. I think it's a spiritual continuation of that song. Let It Bleed is a dark record. It's darker territory than the Stones had forayed into before this. It's the hedonism of rock and roll. It's the destruction that drugs causes, the loss of one of their own, and the state of the world showing up at their doorstep, breaking their front door down. Let It Bleed feels like Hieronymus Bosch's Garden of Earthly Delights. It's treading the line with one side being paradise and the other side being hell. At surface level, Let It Bleed is fractured, sloppy even, but when you listen to it, when you really listen to it, all of those fractured pieces come together. It's a bittersweet album. Like I said, it's a lot of beginnings and a lot of ends for the Stones. It sounds like the end of the 60s, and it sets up the framework for where the Stones would go in the 70s. I think the Stones sum up Let It Bleed best themselves. You can't always get what you want, but if you try sometimes, you might just find you get what you need. My personal favorites are Gimme Shelter, the title track, Midnight Rambler, You Got the Silver, Monkey Man, and You Can't Always Get What You Want. Remember, if you want to keep up with all of the Vinyl Monday faves, I have a Spotify playlist linked in my description. It's very long because it's all of my favorite songs from all of the Vinyl Mondays I have ever done. even the ones before YouTube. And that is it. That's Let It Bleed by the Rolling Stones. What do you guys have to say about this album and this period of Stones history? Leave a comment letting me know. I love hearing what you guys have to say about albums that I love. And if you like what I do here, you should like this video and subscribe to my channel. I post new episodes of Vinyl Monday every Monday morning at 11 a.m. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye!